these are almost like counter melodies, aren't they? A solo is like a kick the door down kind of.
Yep.
So it needs a little bit more spotlight than these guys. So yeah, completely different, I would say. But only in the fact of like, okay, so I can kind of talk you through that and the way I've done this. So I just chucked some stuff on pretty quick while we were out. And yeah, I would have done some cuts, something similar to this. Probably not that. It would have probably been somewhere around the 200 mark. I would have kind of thinned it off for a solo and then got rid of any kind of frequencies that were pissing me off and then compressed it. And then probably there'd have been some more boosting EQ on the back end to get it a bit more kind of hairy, like up front and stuff. Whereas this is like something completely different because I just set this up real quick and it's like it's that dynamic EQ we were talking about. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. But
is it also Kemper?
It's all Kemper, yeah. All different bits and bobs of Kemper. It worked for the workflow of this record. Worked really well. So I think this is like an 800 with some kind of, it'll be like a tube screamy distortion thing on the front. So let's have a listen. Let's turn it down. Do we have sound? No sound. Oh yeah, so I made this bus and I didn't solo safe it. Cool. So there's a problem with this sound and I didn't hear it when we tracked it. There's this like 700 kind of weird, I'll boost it to show you what I didn't like about it. And it's like when I got it home, I could definitely tell that, you know, I should have probably addressed that, but I like the character of everything up above this. So the upper mid, I really loved, even though I've kind of scooched them down there, but because it's a totally different amp, totally different speaker. And I think we tracked it. So the rhythms on this were played on a Warlock of all guitars, and most of the
Warlock.
Yeah, and so was the bass. It was like double attack Warlock.
Oh, I haven't heard about a Warlock in a while.
I know, it's a true story. I'll show you a photo. We had this kind of double Warlock attack. Yeah. But the leads were done on. Matt's got a really lovely sounding Black Les Paul. So I'm pretty sure this is that. Anyway, so I've taken that out because it sounds like there's a weird ghost in there going woo. And then there's this. So I've taken some of this shit out, like all that tat and there, a little bit there, filtered it. So
do you mind boosting it? Just
yeah, of course, yeah. You don't want that. Yeah, it's not very pretty. And taking a bit of that, but you can't. It was like we were talking about before. You can't be taking all of that out, and all of something else out. You'll be left with no energy. It's got to poke out the rhythm guitars. So, and it was worth filtering because there's quite a lot of like rumbly kind of nonsense on there as well. And you know, it was all taped up when we tracked the lead. It was all taped up like a sock over the end or whatever. So as clean as possible when tracking, and that's something I'm a real kind of avid guy about, you know, kind of any strings that aren't being played when you're doing like lead counter melodies and stuff, you know, definitely kind of tape over them and a little bit of gaffer over the headstock so you don't get the ring. And
you can end up with some serious problems that you can't EQ out if you don't do that.
Yeah, you are. And you know, if something comes into mix and it's not been dealt with, like on the front end before it even touched an amp, you kind of, it's a losing battle before you start because it's high gain amps and ringing strings that aren't meant to be ringing. A recipe for disaster, really. Okay, cool. So it's a bit boxy, so I've taken a little bit of 500 out. This is a dynamic EQ, the Waves one, the F6, and I really like it. It's really clean, it doesn't do anything that's not meant to do. It doesn't like impart a character to the sound. It's kind of like a quite surgical tool, so it's good for this job. And where I press play, hopefully, if I've set it up right, it'll be doing what I wanted it to do. It is. Okay. So it's kind of a dynamic EQ in that it kind of compresses. I've got this almost like, let's get two things up. Let's go for this guy too. So this is stationary kind of notch out. So I'm getting rid of that forever. But this I only want to get rid of on certain bits. So as you can see, when it's do the least damage I can to the upper mid in the sound. So that's what that guy's doing, and it's cool. It kind of, if I just copy that, so I've got it. You can set the range. You can do it, invert it. You can do whatever you want to do. But I'm just gonna. That's pretty cool. Sweetening it, and it's doing its thing. And then I'm going to compress it. So with lead guitars, I know I said I don't like always use the same thing all the time, but I do tend to use the LA3A a lot for lead guitars. It's got kind of a bit of thing that kind of works quite nicely with them. So whether it's this or sometimes I use that, the PSP vintage warmer.
Yes.
That's really nice.
That's a nice. I have a theory about PSP.
Yeah.
They make great plugins. I think they, if they had better looking graphics, make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah.
I feel like vintage warmer and stuff. It's one of those things that everyone should use.
It's a really good plug.
Yeah.
Absolutely does the business. So I tend to yo-yo between CLA 3A and sometimes I'll use 76. Don't have to compress lead guitar. I mean, like at all. But I've been using this, so I use this. So let's just get a bit of peak reduction. Let's see what it's doing. Far off. Sounds pretty cool to me. And then I'm just going to hold it in place with a limiter. Got it. It's like there. Less, maybe like. Yeah, just nice and stationary. And I mean, that doesn't look ideal on the gain front, so let's just gain it up a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. Cool, copy it over. Okay, so we got these ping pong delays that I printed, which is it's basically like a H delay type thing, but it's kind of ping ponging around with a little bit of wobble and a bit of chorus. But I'm gonna make like a H3000, like stereo harmonizer thing to just widen these guys. Let's call it Guitar 3000. 3000. Why? Okay, cool. And let's check it out, the lead bars. That's cool. Okay. And this is easy peasy because we're just gonna little micro shift on one, fully wet, and that's going to do the job for us. I'm going to make while I'm doing things, I'm going to make a delay as well. Let's call this, I'm going to use a preset called Crispy Tape, so I'm going to call it Guitar Crispy. So that looks cool. Did I make it? I see, these buses have come in along the way. I've done it before. Okay, cool. So we want that to go out of the lead bus. Cool, and we can center that. So let's just have these panned. I have these quite wide for leads. I'm gonna put them about 80. I don't want them on full, but because these ones are part of the riff bang, I want them to be as wide as possible to kind of help it go bang, gang, 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 gang. And then we'll have the other leads a bit more narrow in the verse, and then the chorus leads we'll have it about 65%, say. Let's do that. That seems to make sense for me. So we're giving different sections a different width, doing it this way. I don't know if that's a right or a wrong thing, but it kind of makes sense that the verses are slightly more narrow, and then.
You know what's interesting? I've never done this, but you know how there are some guys that are LCR with their panning, and they don't do any of this in between stuff.
Yeah.
And their mixes sound fine. And then I know guys who go, as detailed and nuanced as possible with the panning, and that sounds fine too. So like I would try to figure out if there was like a better way. I don't know.
Yeah, just.
Have you ever tried the LCR thing?
No, but I know there's very famous mixers that use that kind of, whether it's left or it's right, never check the mono. I don't check the mono anymore. I think it's kind of irrelevant, isn't it? I don't know. Do you think it's relevant?
Not really.
No? Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I guess on paper it is, but when does it ever actually come up?
Yeah, I mean, I never check it.
Are soft ones mono, or?
Well, they sound like shit anyway. So, I don't know. But I've not checked a mix in mono for a while. I guess every now and then I just press the button and go, oh shit.
Oops.
Where's my guitars gone? Okay, cool. All right. Let's get a little bit of... let's turn that guy down a little bit. Let's get him going as well. I'm not going to put any EQ on him because I know he's kind of there or thereabouts. So let's go for like down there. Is he coming out the right thing? Yeah. Okay, so let's turn this down. Let's get some input on that guy. Turn it down. And solo safe these guys. A little bit of this micro shift on these guys. I'm not going to use this crispy tape on this, but I'm going to use it on another section, but I'll just build it real quick. EchoBoy, not in mono. Multi-channel EchoBoy. That's delay. Cool. It's just a good starting point, this warm crispy tape thing. There she blows. Tons of it. Pull it back a bit. Bit of that. Calm that down a bit. Everything else kind of looks pretty cool. What's the BPM? All right, that might be a bit fast. So let's go for quarter notes. Makes sense. Okay, cool. Right. Lead. Okay, so we've got a little bit swirly stuff on that, and I'm just going to bring this ping pong delay in as well. -10 wasn't a bad guess. So that's roughly how that should sound, or it did sound on the mix.